Hi, everybody. If you're here today, you're probably a Sage 100 customer or a Sage consultant, and you're looking for options to implement CRM. Well, the good news is Microsoft has an awesome option for you, and we're going to show it today. So, Brent has agreed to show us the integration between Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM, you can call it Microsoft CRM if you want, and the Sage 100 product. And we're going to show you what your salespeople will be able to see from within the CRM tool. And the cool thing is, it's all browser based, it's all cloud based. It is all done through the web, so they can access it on the go wherever they are. And that's a pretty important feature for most salespeople these days. So, Brent, thanks for joining us. And I was hoping today you want to just dive right in and show us like what I could look up as a salesperson, as if I want to go pull up a customer and see their past orders, past quotes, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We can take a look at a couple of different accounts, contacts, see what syncs over. And if you have any questions, shout them out.
You know, I always have questions.
Yeah. I was hoping.
Yeah, I can play the dumb salesperson role pretty well at this point.
Perfect. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah. Could you imagine having me as a client? How exhausting it might be with all the questions I ask.
No comment. I think your questions are great.
Okay, great. So let's say one of my customers calls, or I'm going to go on, I have a trip visited. What can I do inside of the Dynamics and to see what's going on with them from an accounting perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I were to open up a record, let's say 3G Homes, right off the bat, this is some basic information that you're always going to have in D365 sales. You've got like your account name, what industry do they work for, website. But with the Sage 100 integration, you get some extra information that comes directly from accounting. So as long as the relationship type, if they're a customer, that means that they're, coming in from the Sage 100 accounting system. Right over here on the right-hand side, you can see we've got some account details that are not out of the box with D365 sales. These are actually coming in directly from Sage 100. So
So that's my actual Sage account number there.
it is, yes. So we've got our Sage account number, their category. You can see right down here, this is a super helpful one, whether or not they're on credit hold, payment terms. So all of this information is coming directly in from Sage 100.
Yeah, the credit hold can be super important because that will help make sure that as a salesperson, I'm not going out trying to chase new business for someone that's on credit hold. Bare
Yeah.
minimum, too, it helps align sales with accounting so that if I am going to talk with 3G Homes, I can say, hey, you owe us money. What's going on here?
Yes, exactly. You can also see all of the salesperson information from Sage 100. So anybody who has processed invoices for this company previously, all that information is going to come through complete with their salesperson ID in Sage as well.
Very cool. Very cool. And I noticed the credit hold is also at the top. Could I put other fields up at the top if I wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a limit on the number of fields that you can put up there. I think it's locked at like 4, but as long as you've got 4 important fields that you want to see right up here at the top screen, you can add away.
Very cool. All right. What else? So is that? I know there's other accounting details, so I won't ask the dumb question. I'll ask the smart question. Can you show us the other accounting details we can see?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go here to our actual accounting details tab, which is going to hold most of our information that comes in from Sage. These screens are totally customizable. So if you wanted to put like your current quotes, orders, any of that on the summary page, add different tabs, you could do that as well. This is just where we have ours organized for the demo environment. So you can see right here in our accounting details tab, we've got some information here on the right side. This looks like it's probably a pretty new customer because we don't have a whole lot of data that came through on like our balance or aging, but this all comes directly in from Sage 100 as well. You can set these up to kind of sync in on different times. So if you want this to update every day, twice a day, what their open balance looks like, what that year-to-date sales number is, that's pretty easy to arrange as well.
Since you brought it up,
Yeah.
how often does the data come over? Is this, it's not real time, it's synced, right? So that means it comes over on schedules, but how frequent can it be? Is it like a day old, a week old?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it has an open answer, I guess, as well. So the sync is also customizable. There are some tables like your customer table or your customer records, your contact records that you probably don't need to sync all that often, maybe like once a day. ERP, like your base settings, you probably need to sync maybe like once a week. For things though, like our quotes, our orders, which you can see coming in through here, our invoices, we probably want to be syncing those a little bit more regularly. So you can set those up to sync. Basically, out of the box, they're set up to sync, I think, like once a day or twice a day. But you could set those to sync every 30 minutes, every hour, just to make sure that you have that constant flow of live data coming in from Sage 100, or vice versa if you have the integration set up that way as well.
So I guess it really depends on how much business you do and transact on a daily basis, which makes sense. So you can kind of control each of the different pieces. Like if you do a lot of quotes, you want to probably sync those more often than something like invoices, which might only happen on a weekly basis, for example, when the accounting department does their invoice processing.
Exactly. You also can run a manual sync, or an admin can. So if there was ever any information that you absolutely needed to sync between the two systems and you don't want to wait until that next sync is scheduled to run the next, tomorrow or next week, you want to have that contact record, for instance, or that account record update into D365 CRM, you can manually push that over at any time, just in a couple of minutes.
That's for those never to be seen sales emergencies.
Yes, exactly. Where it's like, I need this customer in here now. I've got 10 orders to put through.
It happens.
But you don't, yeah, it happens. It definitely happens. So you don't need to wait or worry about waiting on the accounting sync or the Sage 100 sync to run in D365. You can get all that information in. So if those 10 orders come in, that's great.
Okay, so this all looks good. It's got the quotes, the orders, invoices. What about products that they purchased? A lot of times I do talk to customers, and I just want to know what they bought last. Oh, they're there. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, scroll down a bit. Yeah, that's a great question as well. So you can see we've got two views set up here. The recent products, so what are the most recently ordered items for this customer specifically? You can also see the top 10. So if they've ordered frequently, super frequently, looks like they're, frequent buyers of our desks that we have here in the demo system. That's good information to have as well. So, like your average salesperson knows what should I be targeting on this account, especially if maybe it's a new account or it's been transferred. You've got all the recent sales information, historical sales information right here on the account record.
And if I heard you correctly before, this screen, this is what we've set up as default for customers, but they can completely change it and make it almost into an accounting dashboard for their sales reps, right? So like we could completely transform this. We could put products at the top. We could even have different views if they needed them.
Yeah, absolutely. You could put in different tabs. You mentioned dashboards as well. So since all of this information is coming in from Sage 100, you can set up dashboards, reporting, see these metrics in a different way, maybe some charts, tables, graphs, things like that. It's entirely customizable. You can do everything with this data that you would do natively in Dynamics. So it's got some great flexibility for people looking to, really make the most of their CRM.
Very cool. And you mentioned this is for customers. So when I set up this integration, will this automatically pull over all the customers in Sage 100? Or do I have to rekey them in?
So great question. The sync, when we set up the first time sync, you're going to want to think about what type of records, right, do I want to see in CRM? So you can absolutely push every single record that's in Sage 100 over, every single customer record, vendors, all that kind of information. But typically, our sales teams don't need necessarily access to all of those records. So we'll think about what are the most valuable records? What are the most valuable accounts that we want to have our sales team looking at in CRM? Is it folks that have made a purchase from us in the last year, 5 years? We really want to be bringing in more of those active customers, but you make that decision when you're setting up the integration. When do we want to cap this? Do we only want to bring in customers? Do we want to bring in our vendor records? You could do that as well. So it's just a personal decision based on what your business processes look like internally.
That's really great to know. So it's not just customers. I could also bring in vendors, which I know a lot of our customers are distribution, manufacturing, and their vendors are just as important. Well, not just as important, but important to them. So it'd be great to sync those up with Sage 100 as well. So that's good to know.
Yeah, exactly. There also are some options for if you have custom tables, or if you have, other information in Sage 100 that you want to bring over. One of the customers that we work with has like customer complaints, essentially, that they track in Sage 100. They wanted to be able to see those in CRM as well, because it's important for their customer service team, which has access to CRM. So we've built just a custom sync really between the two tables that's going to bring over all of that information so that they can see that and interact with it in real time in CRM, as well as keeping it updated in Sage.
I mean, this is something we take offline, but I think that customer service can be done inside of Dynamics really easily with ticketing and complaints and knowledge base. I'm surprised they didn't move that over from Sage 100 into Dynamics.
Yeah. So they're bringing in the historical records, but they will continue to be updated in the short term. But yes, then the goal really is to be using D365 for all of the customer service interactions. But since they've been working with Sage 100, right, Sage for the last 10, 15 years, they have a lot of data in there that they want to make sure the customer service team has available to them when they're working in CRM.
That makes sense. I see a lot of customers that come to us before they have CRM, they have accounting, and everything is in their accounting software, like their prospects and all this information that they don't really need in accounting. And then so as they move to CRM, it makes sense that over time they slowly shift some of those non-accounting functions out to the CRM.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, so I have another question. You mentioned this is for customers. So if I had prospects in here, is the process to move them over, and you don't have to show this to me, I'm just kind of curious, like, is the process to convert them into a customer, is that pretty easy, or do I have to rekey the data into Sage 100?
That is a great question as well. So again, this is going to come down to your configuration options when you set up the integration with Sage and CRM. Really what you're going to want to decide is there's an option to have a bidirectional integration. So if I want to push information from Dynamics into Sage and have Sage data come back to D365, or you could set up a one-directional integration, which would just be we're pulling information in from Sage, and any changes that we make to it, any updates that we make to it that our sales team are keying in, do not feed back into the accounting system. So typically we suggest when you're at least first getting started to kind of have that one-way pull so that we know that our accounting data is sacrosanct, right? We know that our accounting data is 100% accurate all of the time. Bryn, salesperson, came in here and changed an address. That's not going to update our accounting record, for instance. If you do want to set up a two-way integration where we have some D365 data flowing back in, really all that needs to happen here is that if I were, for instance, this record was listed as a prospect previously, I could come in here. Prospect records will not sync with Sage 100. So your sales team can be entering as many prospects, as many leads into the system as they want. Nothing's going to happen. If I come over here and toggle this onto customer, that's going to trigger the sync to bring this 3G Homes information from D365 into Sage 100.
So I have two questions that kind of relate to that.
Sure.
You mentioned the address. So like, let's say we do have the bidirectional sync on, or actually let's say unidirectional sync.
Yes.
So I change the address here as the salesperson. The next time it syncs, would it change the address back to what's in the accounting software?
With a unidirectional sync, no. So with a unidirectional sync, no, it would not. So you could change the address information here and it would appear a different address only in D365. So what some people will do is if you want this address locked so that it's going to always match what's in our Sage 100 system, if you have a unidirectional sync, you would just lock these fields down so that they're not editable for your sales team.
Did hear that they were moving, they just had to let the accounting team know, which actually sounds like a pretty good process.
Yes, yeah. You always want your accounting data, obviously, to be your go-to record. The source of ultimate truth is really going to be in accounting because we know that data has been checked, it's been verified, we know that it's accurate. So what some folks will do if you do have that bidirectional sync turn on is just lock this field down as well and say only users with specific security rights, like our accounting manager, our sales team manager, can toggle this field from a prospect to a customer to make that sync run. So that's one really great way of making sure that your data is accurate. We still get this all pulled into Sage 100 so it can be verified, checked, go through all the regular checks that you do on the accounting side. And the sales team still in the meantime gets to utilize this record.
Now, how do we make sure that the salespeople, let's just face it, salespeople aren't as thorough as accounting people in most companies. So the
They're
fact that,
busy. Yeah.
yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Like, are we implying the accounting people aren't busy?
No, never. But I mean, especially when a record is a prospect, maybe there's a little less weight on making sure that all of these fields are exactly correct. Maybe, the zip code, their billing address, not their delivery address, all that kind of stuff. And then when you're ready to switch into customer, maybe it's been a couple weeks since I entered that information on the prospect record. So it's just that extra series of checks and balances that accounting is so well known for.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I agree with you. So that was kind of my question, because there are usually steps that the accounting people will do to make sure that a customer record is set up properly, like putting them in the right category, setting up their terms, their shipment defaults, things like that. So it makes sense that someone in accounting would get involved to move someone from a prospect to a customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you've answered a lot of great questions here. So, really dumb question. How do we determine if one of our customers using this product would benefit from unidirectional or bidirectional? Is it just a matter of a conversation with them, or does it depend on their needs, or do we generally recommend unidirectional at first just for them to kind of like warm up to how it all works?
Yeah, I would say it's always going to depend on your needs. It's going to depend. Everyone's sales processes are a little bit different. So we talk a little bit about like what it is that you're doing now. So if we can kind of get a basic understanding of kind of what those sales processes look like, there might be a different conversation about, we do have some customers that have started off with a bidirectional integration just because it made the most sense for them. I think generally we lean towards selecting unidirectional just because, using CRM, if it's your first time with CRM especially, might cause your business processes to change. So if you have salespeople in the system for the first time, customer service, if we're just getting used to using CRM, it's kind of a lot to put on the table at one time, to also be kind of keeping an eye on what's going on with the integration and making sure all our processes are keyed in. So typically I lean towards suggesting, let's start with unidirectional. And then if we see, if we're coming up against limitations, or it seems like we're ready to take that next step, getting that all of the way in like a phase 2.
That makes sense. It aligns real well with what we've learned over the last 20 years of doing this too, which is start simple, and then you can always change and evolve as you learn how CRM changes your business and helps you streamline processes, so you can move forward faster as you go.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'll say too, we've talked a lot about the different customizations, different options that you have when setting up the sync. I do just want to say too that the out-of-the-box sync with Sage 100 and D365 CRM is pretty great. So I think that's a really good foundational piece to start with. And as with anything in CRM, there's so much that you can do. There's so many opportunities that you have for advanced customizations, automations. But it's a really great tool just sort of out of the box to get you started. And then we learn from interacting with it what is going to be the best next step. What are going to be the next, integrations, information that we pull in to improve our sales processes.
That's great. I want to talk about the tool a little bit here, but before we do, I want to ask a few more functional questions. So
sure.
As we're looking at this and thinking through this, one of the things I'm thinking about is collection calls. So a lot of times with collection calls, accounting departments will just print off their aged receivables, and they'll just have a list of all the customers that owe money, and they'll have someone just walk through that list and just write notes on the edge of the paper, or maybe just have a spreadsheet or something to track that. But I could see putting collection call process inside of CRM pretty easily, because you could probably take all those people on credit hold and make a list of them, and then just kind of walk through the list and just make your calls. And then the calls will be recorded in here under the timeline for each customer. I think that'd be pretty strong case to use CRM for the accounting people as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You absolutely can create that list, just like you mentioned. Just give me a list of everyone on credit hold. And then I can also assign those phone call tasks to different users. So if I want to give Peter a list of 100 accounts to call that are on credit hold, and myself maybe 30, and our other users, other numbers down the line, you can assign those tasks and you can watch them being completed in CRM in real time as well. So I could see like Peter has finished, 40 of the calls that he has open, and they're going to show up here in the account timeline. So I would be able to see, if that call is open or closed, if it's been made, Your sales team users can make, or your accounting team users can make those calls right from the app. They have the mobile app as well. So it kind of cuts out that middleman of I've made the call, I log the call, do all those steps. So yeah, that's a great use case.
I think it's a simple thing, but it really speaks to the strength of CRM in a company, which is to bring the right hand and the left hand together so that everyone's on the same page. Because as a salesperson, if I see someone's on credit hold and I see that, Susan or Tom in the accounting called them, well, if I'm going to call on 3G Homes, I could just kind of add a little oomph to it and say, hey, it looks like Susan reached out to you about your overdue bill. Are you going to be able to take care of that? Because I know you've got this big project coming up and we want to make sure nothing stops that from going forward, and just help each other out so we're all on the same team.
Yeah, exactly. The nice thing about those records being tracked in CRM as well is that you get to see those call notes. So if Susan has called on this account and she's left a note that, their check is in the mail, or, some check is in the mail. The check's always in the mail. But whatever those call notes are, instead of, Peter salesperson having to email Susan and say, oh, I saw that I saw that you're calling on my account that has a credit hold. What happened in the conversation? You're cutting out the need for an email, a phone call, an interaction, because all of that history is going to be right here in the timeline. I can see what happened on that call, what the mood was like, and what the next steps are, if any, before I get into touch with 3G Homes again about another opportunity.
Yeah, and I don't want to beat this one to death, but it also, obviously, we've been talking about us calling upon 3G Homes, but if they call us and they're like,
oh yeah,
hey, I want to talk about this overdue bill, then as a sales rep, I take that call and I can go look at that note. It kind of goes to what you're saying. Like, I can immediately see, oh, you were talking with Susan. Let me transfer you over to her. And I know just recently we did a video with Jason Dobble about the Teams dialer integration. So they could just click the phone number in here and transfer this person over to someone else in the company. So that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I will say too, from a customer perspective, like there's nothing more frustrating than when you're calling in and nobody knows what you're talking about. You're like, I just had an hour-long conversation, or I've called in 4 times, or I've had this conversation with X, Y, and Z at your company. So I think that it also, from a customer service perspective, is putting you off on the right foot, because your customer service team, your accounting team, your sales team all have access to the exact same information. They all know where they're at in the life cycle. If there have been those touch points, they can see the record of it without having to have the customer explain themselves for the 4th, 5th, time.
I mean, your case there, it really hit home, because I just dealt with that 2 weeks ago, where I had to call 3 different times. And every time I had to regurgitate all the details about, and it was not my fault, it was a billing screw up on their end, and I had to keep going over and over these details with people. Very frustrating as a customer, and it just makes you want to just move on and find a different vendor to provide your needs. So I have another general question. So we're looking right now at 3G Homes, but let's say I wanted to go, let's say someone calls up and says, I want to talk about order number, or quote number 459. Like, can I see, do I have to go to a customer? And I know the answer is no. So maybe you could just jump ahead and show us,
you. Yeah, no worries. So if I did want to see the orders from 3G, right, I've got those in my accounting details. If I just want to see all of my orders, you can see over here on the left-hand navigation pane, I've got my accounting data here as well. So I can see all of my quotes, my orders, my invoices, inventory, products, all here on this left-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and just open our orders.
Perfect.
And we'll take a look.
So we can see all the orders across all the customers, not just 3G Homes. So this is that view, like the master view, like you get inside of Sage 100.
Exactly. So we've got 38. So we've got 38 orders that exist on Sage 100 that have come over. Or if I have a bidirectional integration and orders that were started in D365 and sent into Sage, and we can report on this information. Again, we can use this for dashboards, reporting tools for our sales teams, for accounting, customer service, whomever. And it's going to pull in all of that data right in from Sage 100, right here into D365.
So this is it. This is all the quote data, all the order data, all the invoice data is right here. I see different tabs, and we don't need to go into all of these right now. And if anybody's watched this video and wants to see more information, you can feel free to connect with Bryn or I on LinkedIn and just ask, and we can make a follow-up video or have a call with you to go over your specific questions. But essentially, this brings over all that data, so I can see everything at my fingertips without having to go into the accounting software, without having to go bother the accounting people. And because this is all web-based, We can get this wherever we are in the world, whether we're at a trade show, whether we're at a customer site, whether we're on our mobile phone. It's available everywhere, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. At your fingertips. And again, this is just the base level integration. So we don't have anything, fancy set up here. It brings over a great amount of information right out the gate.
And just to reiterate a point we made earlier, because if people are coming from Sage 100, they may not know all the flexibility of Dynamics. And we do encourage you to check out our channel, subscribe to our channel. We've got videos on how Dynamics works, but this screen, like the other screens, can be completely tailored to your needs. So we can change the tabs, we can change the layouts, and we can make it, put the useful information right there in front of your people so that they can do their jobs faster. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. Great.
One of the things here that I love a lot is the inventory, and you don't have to click on it, but just to discuss it real quickly, go ahead and click on it.
Take a look. Yeah.
But that's a question we get asked a lot is a customer calls up, do you have part number 404 in stock? And here you can see all the different warehouses, the quantity on hand, quantity on sales order. And I know we can customize this as well. So if there's specific data points that you need to see about your inventory, you can put that on this grid as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's very nice to have for sales users, especially if you're putting in an order and you can see my quantity on hand is -16 or everything's on back order, for instance. It's not something that I want to promise for delivery next week, obviously. So instead of having to,
Probably
yeah,
not.
again, it's not something that I have to go talk to Susan in accounting about. I don't have to send an email. I don't have to jump in this and, walk down the hall and tap on the door and ask how many of the paper caggings we have available. I can see right here in CRM, maybe something I'm going to want to push out a bit on a delivery date or follow up and see, what's the earliest that we could get that order in.
I meant to ask about, if you go back to the orders for a second, for those watching that don't know Dynamics very well, in the upper left where it says all orders, you can actually change this view and you can make very specific views. So you can say things like, give me all my orders that are supposed to ship this week, or give me all my orders that have stalled out, which maybe they've been in the system for more than 30 days or 60 days, whatever parameters you set. So you can have different slices of these views. It's almost like a mini dashboard in itself.
Yeah, exactly. And then you could even build additional automations on top of that. Like if I have all of my shipped orders and maybe I want to send out like a thank you or a confirmation automatically from the system, you can set up different triggers based on these things. So it's really flexible. Great way to kind of help people get more done with their day.
I mean, I think that's a really good point because it speaks to the strengths of Microsoft's Dynamics CRM product. It's not just about bringing all the data into one place. It's about these automations and streamlining processes. And we didn't really cover that, but I'm really glad you brought that up. So things like if someone goes from credit hold no to credit hold yes, maybe it triggers something for the sales rep to call them. So the sales rep gets more involved with the customer, or maybe it triggers some other process, or maybe when a quote has been sitting in the system for more than 7 days, it automatically pops onto the salesperson's calendar. Peter, call this person. Their quote has been out there for more than 7 days. Maybe do something.
Yeah.
Or if the quote is under a certain threshold, so maybe it's like a really low quote, like a parts replacement, maybe it just automatically sends an email out to the customer. The idea is just to streamline and automate things to make sure that your company's lean, mean, profitable machine, which is a great goal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
So, we did all this, and this is also amazing, honestly. As a salesperson, all this is really cool because it means I can serve my customers faster. I get information at my fingertips. I don't have to bother the accounting people. But we forgot to mention, this is all done through a third-party tool. You keep mentioning the tool. Can we take just a few minutes to talk about the tool? This is not meant to be a technical session, so we're not going to get into the configuration options, but just what is this tool? How does it work? Does it get installed on my server? Just a little bit of an overview, Bryn.
Great question. So for setup, the tool it's a Gumu Sync integration between Sage 100 and D365. And the configuration takes a bit to kind of get into. We'll need access to Sage 100, obviously, to create a user so that we can run the sync back and forth. It can take some time to just kind of like I said, if we're talking about syncing over our customers, for instance, we want to decide what are the parameters of the customers that we want to sync over. So to get started, it's a lot of kind of thinking about what kind of data do we want to bring in, how often do we want to run it back and forth. And then there's a portal. So it's an online portal that you would log into once the integration has been set up. And you can configure right in that portal everything about our syncs, what's coming over, when it's coming over. I can check on the health of the sync. So if I want to make sure that everything's up and running, I can do like a little system check. So that's all done on the web as well. The integration itself will be set up by us, really. So we go in, we check all of the security settings, we make sure that everything is secure, moving back and forth, set that all up so that you don't have to worry about data being exposed, and just making sure that everything is set up so that you're able to configure those items in the web for the sync to run effectively.
So just to reiterate it, make sure I'm hearing it correctly, and I know I'm hearing it correctly, but just for those who are listening, this is all
Sure.
done in the cloud. So Dynamics itself is not installed on your server. You don't have to worry about upgrades. It's all cloud-based, and so it's very low cost to maintain long-term. The fancy way of saying that is the total cost of ownership is lower than something that's on premises. And this bridge software, this Greytrix Gumu, it's a funny word, but that's what they call it, is Greytrix Gumu. That bridge software lives out in the cloud and kind of connects the two systems, the on-premise Sage 100, whether it's on a server in someone's office or whether that's hosted somewhere out in the internet itself. But the bridge will talk to Sage 100 and then also talk to Dynamics, and that's how the magic happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Well, do you have anything else you wanted to show quickly? I know we want to wrap this up, but this was really useful. And if you've got any other parting things, I'd love to see them.
Well, now I feel like I have to show off some party things.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
That was a leading question. I retract the question because I'm looking at the clock, and we've been on this for a while. And as fascinating as this stuff is, I probably would ask that if someone's interested, go ahead and comment or hit us up on LinkedIn, ask the questions, and we'll do another session of this. And if you want to see more about the configuration options, let us know. We're really trying to make this series more about how you can use it to change your business and transform your business. But if you have technical questions, let us know. We're happy to answer them. I think that's it, Bryn. I think really thank you for showing us this. This is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun. So if we do want to do a couple more videos on anybody's specific questions, it would be great to hear what you guys want to see or what you have questions about. That will definitely help us with future sessions.
Awesome. Thank you all.